Tom Brady in the Bucs offense. I think there's a lot of question marks, but the one question mark you don't have is a guy who's super, competitive, competent, and incredible at the position. He's basically redefined it now as the new NFL has come to be. And now, obviously, that's been taken to a different generation with Mahomes and Jackson. But Tom is still in the conversation for the best in the game right now. So I don't know if you guys want to take it away and your thoughts on the Bucs offense.
We were trying to figure out who is going to be the focus in that offense, because with so many weapons, someone's going to get left out.
And I have an answer for that.
Chris Godwin.
It's Chris Godwin.
No.
Look, I did some film study this week. It's Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are two distinctly different players. Chris Godwin runs almost all of the snaps out of the slot. I watched every single catch that Chris Godwin had last year, every single catch that Mike Evans had last year. Almost every single catch that Chris Godwin had last year was within 15 yards. So we talk about all the time how Tom Brady isn't mobile and how that offensive line still has some holes, and how is he going to throw to these receivers if they're running down the field all the time. Well, Chris Godwin is the guy who's going to be open at most of those times. Chris Godwin has like this incredible ability to get open, to like make that second move when the play breaks down within 15 yards. So he's still staying within the line of scrimmage, and he's getting open. So like he, in some respects, he's a typical slot receiver, but he has like a different kind of build and a different skill set. Like he's not like quick and shifty like Wes Welker or Randall Cobb or that kind of guy. He's fast, but he doesn't have like that quick twitch movement.
Tit?
Yeah, that's what I meant. And then
Quick tit movement.
Yeah, and then he's also able to break tackles. He's a super strong dude. And so I was trying to like think of like what like a comparison.
Did you watch
be.
his workout videos?
No, I just watched what's on TV. You apparently.
I know who did.
No.
Mike, how was it on Instagram?
Excellent, shirtless and everything.
Like I was trying to think of like who would he compare to in NFL history, and I came up with two really convenient examples for my argument that he's going to be the best Bucs receiver.
Antonio Brown.
No, one is Hines Ward, who we know has experience with Bruce Arians, and the other is Julian Edelman. These are like stronger, slightly taller guys who can play in the slot and can get open in short windows. And so like he is the prototypical Brady wide receiver. I mean, this is the guy that's going to get 10, 15 catches a game. Mike Evans is the one that's running down the field and catching these 50-yard bombs that Jameis Winston's just throwing up. Tom Brady doesn't have the arm strength to do that. Tom Brady doesn't have the time to do that. Chris Godwin is the guy who's going to be the biggest beneficiary.
One follow-up on that, on your analysis there, your film study of Chris Godwin, which I'm very impressed.
Thank you.
The condescension is thick on that one.
This is fully genuine from a place of earnest. Two qualities that tie Hines Ward and Julian Edelman together, in my mind, is their toughness and willing to catch balls and get smacked. Is Chris Godwin the guy that will do that?
Fuck yeah, he is. Yes,
okay.
That was the thing that jumped off the screen to me, was the amount of tough catches that he is making. And no, they're like, I think the game is a little bit different from when Hines Ward is playing, so he's not getting like the headshot, within 15 yards. But almost all of his catches are between the hashes within 15 yards. So he's playing against all these heavy hitters, these safeties coming down, these linebackers coming out, and he's making catch after contested catch. That's a part of Chris Godwin's game that I didn't realize that he had until I went back and watched it. Now, the big caveat to all this is that Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are two like fantastic wide receivers, and they're both going to get their catches this year. So like I don't like elevate Chris Godwin at the expense of Mike Evans. I just think Chris Godwin is the better option. between the two of those guys. And then, we can branch out into like what our tight end and running back projections are. But I think if we're talking about like who's going to be the biggest beneficiary on that offense, it comes down to Godwin or Evans. And for me, it's Godwin.
Yeah. Let's stay with the wide receivers for a while. And to your point, Matt, I think Chris Godwin is the prototypical Brady wide receiver, but the prototypical Brady wide receiver in New England. If Chris Godwin was in New England with Josh McDaniels and Tom Brady, yeah, that would be an amazing fit. He'd be 1,400 yards, 10 touchdowns. Yeah, but he's not. This is Bruce Arians. This is force the ball down the field, play action, big chunks. And that's what Mike Evans is, the deep outs, the posts, the flags. Like, look at Tom Brady. His most successful season in the entire NFL was when he had Randy Moss, which is the style. Like, Mike Evans doesn't have the speed of Randy Moss.
That's 9 years ago. That's a 34 years old arm strength.
But yeah, it's regardless of the fact, Tom Brady is still a quarterback, and if you don't think he can throw the ball 50 yards down the field, then there's something wrong with you, because it's Tom Brady.
Do you remember Peyton Manning's last year?
Okay, that was bad, right? But let's be honest. Peyton Manning has never thrown a pretty ball. Go back and watch every pass that Peyton Manning has thrown. Each one of them is a fucking duck. He throws the most ugliest passes. It's remarkable how these things actually hit the receivers between the numbers, because it was just the ugliest looking ball I've ever seen. Tom Brady throws a very good spiral, and he still has enough arm strength to get it to a guy like Mike Evans. And he's a legitimate red zone threat. And especially when you have a guy like, let's touch on the tight ends for a little bit, Rob Gronkowski, a guy like Cameron Brate, okay, even O.J. Howard will throw him into the mix. Those guys are taking up a lot of real estate in the middle of the field, which is going to leave your receivers, Chris Godwin included, and Mike Evans in one-on-one coverage on an island on the outside, because your safeties and your linebackers are focused on your tight ends. Now, the tight ends have never been featured in a Bruce Arians offense, as we talked about. But Mike Evans, look, let's be honest, both of these receivers are amazing. They were both over 17 points per game in fantasy last year. I think Chris Godwin was 19.7, and then Evans was like 17.9. But they both missed a couple games. Here's the one thing. We've seen these Brady workouts that he's gotten busted for not being allowed to work during the quarantine and stuff like that. Do you know who he's been working out with?
Mike Evans.
Not Chris Godwin, right? Rob Gronkowski and Mike Evans. Now, what does that tell me? And I know Teddy and I have talked about this. Tom Brady throws to the guys that he can trust, the guys that he loves. And guess who he's not working out with right now? Chris Godwin. The writing is on the wall for Mike Evans and Rob Gronkowski to take over the target share in this offense.
No fucking way.
I'm gonna play like the very neutral role, because like I was going to acquiesce. This was my plan to enter this conversation. I would acquiesce that, Matt, yes, I'm convinced now that Chris Godwin is the correct answer, because like if he's the slot guy, if he's willing to take the hits across the middle, if he can play the scramble game, then like he'll be the guy. Although Mike made some solid rebuttals. I agree that Tom Brady is mostly about trust, and Mike Evans, if he's the guy that's catching the passes right now, that's going to matter a lot. Like we said, there's no games. It's the same as the Cam Newton argument. Is like, you got to work with what you've got, and especially early on. But of course, I'm going to throw out my favorite position on the entire thing is like temper your expectations on both. On all of them, because Jameis Winston threw a lot of interceptions, but he had a monster year. Like everything you see in the stat line for Chris Godwin and Mike Evans last year, multiply it by a factor of 80%, like by 0.8, because that is a realistic expectation for Tom Brady's ceiling. And that's a good season. That's 4,100 yards and 24 touchdowns, which is the exact stat line he had last year. And I don't expect it to be much bigger than that. And it's gonna, if it all comes out off evenly, and like we're debating on who it comes off of here or there, but like as a baseline, do not expect them to repeat their performances last year. Everyone's numbers will go down because Jameis Winston threw 5,100 yards and 30 touchdowns, and that's not gonna happen.
I love that take, by the way. That's awesome.